to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there, how long is it, 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place.
impedes us, if he knowingly harbors or conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
And while Homan says there are no plans for family separation, President Trump's immigration surrogate offered this blunt take.
You need to take the child home with you?
Yeah, guess what, Brandon Johnson? Guess what, Boston mayor? Guess what, Denver mayor that wants to prioritize illegals over American citizens? Get in the way of this administration's deportation plan? You get to go to jail. Absolute correct answer. If you oppose deportation, you are a traitor to this country. Prison is probably light for you, a little jail time. Now, it remains to be seen. Do they have the stones to follow through and prosecute and put these guys in jail? I hope so. And you know the left would freak out. They're like, see, he's going after political opponents. He's jailing political opponents. Yes, they're political opponents, but yes, they're criminals. If you oppose deportation in such a manner as Denver's mayor, Boston's mayor, Chicago's mayor here are threatening, you are acting criminally. That's why you're going to jail. Not because you're a political opponent per se, but because you're a criminal. You're opposing deportation. You're prioritizing illegals over American citizens. You can't do that. But Homan there at the very end there asked about separating families. Trump administration has also been clear now. Donald Trump himself said, no, I won't separate families. His response to this question when he sat down with Welker is absolutely fantastic. Let us see if we have this clip here.
Million families in America who have mixed immigration status. So I'm talking about parents who might be here illegally, but the kids are here legally. Your borders are.
You're talking about separation.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two aspects to this. Your borders are. Tom Homan said they can be deported together. Correct. Is that the plan?
Well, that way you keep the. Well, I don't want to be breaking up families. So the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together, and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations. You can always find something out like, you know.
All right, then he explains it a little bit more. Very simple plan. I'm not going to separate families. So guess what, families? You all get to go home. And this is going to be even bigger than Trump. Let's say Trump mandated deportations where you go and round up folks. The best way to deport people is have them self-deport. What that means is you can cut off benefits, no more financial bennies, no more stipends, no more housing, no more medical, no more education, no more anything for these folks. If you cut off the check and you say, guess what? You have $0 in your little debit card that the government hands out to you. Once these folks realize that there are no more bennies, a lot of them are going to pack up and go home. They could stay and work, maybe, but a lot of the people came here just to get benefits in the first place. These corrupt NGOs round them up down there, wherever they are, and they say, look, if you can get to America, I can get you signed up for all of this free money. Take away the money, those people are going to go home, and even more people thinking about coming here aren't going to make the trip because it's not worth it. What am I going there for? I got nothing offered to me. So you got to cut off the money supply to these folks. And then the other way you can encourage folks to self-deport is say, if you don't want your family to be broken up, maybe your whole family needs to go back. Oh, but my anchor baby was born here. Well, guess what? Mom and dad, if you're here illegally, and yeah, speaking of anchor babies, ending birthright citizenship, we got a clip on that one next and comments on that one. The families don't want to lose access to their kids, hopefully. I mean, there's probably some parents out there that are like, well, I want my kid to stay in America. Well, that is your choice. Or these entire families are going to pack their bags and say, we're not separating ourselves. We're all going to go back to Guatemala. We're all going to go back to Venezuela together. So he can send in folks. I'm fine with the military. I've said this before. I'm fine with the National Guard, the U.S. military going into cities and rounding up illegals. Rand Paul, love him as a U.S. senator. He said that's not good optics. But you know what is bad optics? Having all these illegals in the country in the first place. And for everyone saying you're sending the military within the interior of the country, yeah, it's not going after American citizens. An illegal immigrant is not a U.S. citizen. They are criminals. They shouldn't be here. So when the military is used for them, that is fine. If military exists to defend the country, I see no better reason, no better what use of them than defending our country by getting these violent criminals back to their home countries and let the home country deal with them, which is what they should have been doing all along. So great response here from Donald Trump. I don't want to separate families. I guess they all got to go. Yes, that is the correct answer. They all have to go. So then he was asked to expand on that part with birthright citizenship. Take a listen to this clip right here.
promised to end birthright citizenship
Yeah.
on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an
Well, we're going to
executive
have to get a
action?
change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know,
You're
we're
gonna
the only country that has it. Do you know?
I don't think that's true. I saw a map. It was either called Rule of Blood or Rule of Law. Interestingly, if this map is accurate, and again, I'm fact checking Trump and I don't even actually have the facts. I believe most countries in the Western Hemisphere, minus Colombia, I think it was, have a sort of birthright citizenship or anchor baby status, if you will. And the old world, Europe, Asia, it's rule of land, which means you need to have heritage to those countries. Now, America doesn't work that way because we aren't an ethnicity. We have a heritage, but we don't have, like, if you look at a Russian or a Spaniard or a Chinese, you're like, yes, you are Chinese, you are Russian. And so if you want to have Russian citizenship, mom and dad better be Russian, and that's how you continue on that legacy. In America, it has been, if you are born here, you are an American citizen. But to clarify the 14th Amendment, that was one of the Civil War slavery amendments. 13, 14, 15 related to the freed slaves. Gave them their freedom, gave them the vote, gave them citizenship. It was never meant to be, hey, so-and-so from South America, if you can sneak across the border and have a baby in our country, well, now that kid's a citizen. It was never meant to be that way. That didn't even cross the people's minds 170 years ago. They didn't foresee a world where 10 million people would swarm the country during Joe Biden's administration. Come here simply to have a kid to then have an anchor to this country. Oh, my kid's a citizen. You can't deport me. Obviously not what it was meant to do. Donald Trump is absolutely right to end birthright citizenship. And if we are the only country, if we're not the only country, I don't care. If other countries want to have this because there's so much desire to go down to Ecuador and have an Ecuadorian citizen, if you're to whoever kind of parents, people aren't doing that. They come to America to do that. And we got to get rid of it. And again, you talk about getting rid of incentives for people to come here in the first place. You don't have to carry out massive deportations in the future if you cut off the financial incentive, cut off the birthright incentive. Once people have less reason to come here, they will, in this case, not self-deport, but they will self-select and say, you know what, I'm going to stay here. Or maybe I'll just go into another country and see what I can get out of them. But you're not going to do it in America anymore, folks. So again, great response from Donald Trump talking about ending birthright citizenship. Love it, love it, love it. There's so much winning going on here. We got more clips here. Another big reason Donald Trump won, you could talk about open borders, you could talk about the economy, and people are still wondering, why are we in Ukraine? Great read by Scott Horton. If you get Provoked, I'm only 30 pages in, and I hate NATO more than I ever thought possible. Why are we in Ukraine? Well, it's to give NATO a reason to exist. It is to launder money. It is to enrich folks like Hunter Biden that can sit on Burisma's board. Ukraine keeps getting called the most corrupt country in Europe. And conveniently, we went to war with them and to support them. We're watching hundreds of billions of dollars get sent to Ukraine. And we said, we're done with this conflict. Find peace to this conflict. I don't want to watch these people get needlessly killed. I don't want those citizens to become pawns in a larger MIC, global power elitist cabal trying to take control of some parts of the country. And this is not a pro-Putin stance. I am anti-Ukraine. Putin's got his own problems. No one's defending Putin's actions. But we don't want people to die. And Donald Trump, this is going back now to a town hall he did with CNN. Again, giving legitimacy to corporate media. Kind of went on that rant on Tuesday, mentioned again today. Don't love it. But at the same time, people watch CNN that don't normally vote for Donald Trump or Republicans, so at least they heard the message. But this answer has been burned into my brain. This was such a good response. Do you want Ukraine to win the war? And they're trying to frame it up as like, well, you have to support Ukraine. Otherwise, you're a Putin apologist. Otherwise, you're defending the wrong side here. Listen to Donald Trump's response.
I was impeached by a crazy woman named Nancy Pelosi.
But the question here is, would you give Ukraine weapons and funding if you were
I would
elected?
sit down. Let me just put it a nicer way. If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war?
Notice the clapping at CNN too. Most Americans, I'm going to kind of conclude the show today to talk about most Americans are on board with everything Trump is doing. When I say we are back, I'm not talking just America first, although yes, it is America first that is winning the culture war and the political war right now. All Americans are winning. Every single American's life is going to get better under Donald Trump. Most Americans don't want the war in Ukraine either. Even if you're some brainwashed nut job, you can be Adam Kinzinger, have a Ukraine flag in your bio still. I mean, that guy obviously wants the war to continue because he's getting kickbacks. His buddies are getting kickbacks. Most regular Americans, though, we don't like war. I think more and more Americans are waking up to the fact that, like, we haven't had a legitimate war since ever, maybe. There's always been underlying reasons to go fight in these conflicts overseas, spend massive amounts of money, get people killed needlessly. So even CNN town hall audience is like, wait, you're going to solve this war? That sounds great to me.
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely
Do you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and break.
Stop killing all of these people. This is a man of peace, the most pro-peace president we have ever had already. Drawing down conflicts in his first term, no new major escalations. As soon as Biden takes office, you got the Middle East up in flames. You got Ukraine up in flames. China was saber-rattling over in Taiwan this entire time. I think people are probably surprised. Well, we still have, 40 days till Joe Biden leaves office. Lots of time for China to invade Taiwan still. But they also must realize, the clock is ticking because Trump's back in office soon. But that response right there, excuse me, it's cold. I have a cold. I want people to stop dying. That's it. We don't want people killed. We don't want our men and women in uniform killed. We don't want to watch these poor Russians and Ukrainians get killed either. Ukraine taking young men against their will to go to the front lines and get slaughtered for no reason. Civilians caught in the crossfire, watching their entire communities crumble. I mean, Russian soldiers. I'm not rooting for any of these guys to get killed. People just want this war to be over. It's already winding down. You can see Joe Biden's agenda, last minute push, send money over there, send weapons over there, fire missiles into Russia if you're Ukraine. Thanks, Great Britain. Thanks, America. But Donald Trump is going to end the war. This conflict will be done January 21st. First day in office, peace, 24 hours. That is what the American people voted for. And you know what? Every American, when the war comes to an end, they're all going to say, thank goodness. Unless you're like Kinzinger and you got your little Ukraine flag in there for the rest of your life. Joni Ernst, we did some rhino stuff on her. She had her little Ukraine lapel. But Americans want peace. 48%, if you believe the numbers, voted for Kamala Harris. In a sense, a continuation of, yes, open borders. Yes, this Ukraine conflict. Donald Trump's going to bring it to a close. And Americans are going to realize this is a good thing. I don't need to send my tax dollars overseas. I don't need to watch these people get slaughtered. End the war. Winning and losing, we're not talking about that. We're talking about ending the war and keeping people alive. So much winning. Donald Trump is helping everyone win around the world. If you're a Ukrainian or a Russian, you must have loved watching Donald Trump get elected. You're like, thank goodness this conflict is going to be over soon. All right, so we got that one right there. We got birthright citizenship. We talked about that. Completely unrelated is it, Ukraine to Department of Education. But folks, so much winning. Here's Linda McMahon asked about, are you going to get rid of the Department of Education? Love this response. Take a listen.
Plan on dismantling the Department of Education?
Well, certainly the president is looking forward to raising the level of education across the country by sending education back to the states.
Send it back to the states. Just like, I'm going to go on an abortion rant now, for not a rant so much as a commentary on abortion. The left fear-mongered so much in this last election cycle. Roe sent back to the states during Trump's first term. For 4 years, they were trying to tell women, you lost your freedom. You don't have health care rights anymore. You don't have reproductive freedom. You can't murder your baby at 9 months. Abortion was sent back to the states, and Donald Trump doesn't need to say anything else about it. It's a state issue. So they fear-mongered, and again, why I'm so optimistic, I don't think abortion can be an issue anymore in elections, because if you live in Minnesota where I do, you can still murder your baby after they've been born through a botched abortion. Tim Walz didn't want to touch that during the debate with J.D. Vance. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, J.D. Yes, in Minnesota, you can murder your baby after they've been born. So Minnesota voters have a lot to waking up to do. But if you're in another state and you elect people that say do a 6-week ban or a 10-week ban or whatever state kind of you live in, that is your choice as a citizen of that state. That is the whole premise of the Constitution. The federal government should only exist for national security, arbitrating between state conflicts, defending the border, working out foreign trade. There's very little reason for the federal government to exist. We never intended to have a federal Department of Education, of all things, a national abortion ban. And so abortion goes back to the states. People aren't talking about it anymore. They can't, because what's Trump going to do? Do a Trump national abortion ban like Kamala Harris tried to fearmonger? Well, when he doesn't do that for 4 years, you can't really try to bring that back up. Same thing now with Department of Education. More and more folks are going to realize, like, well, we didn't need all that oversight at the federal level. And when I mean oversight, I mean absolute tyranny and control. If I live in Minnesota and all these woke voters out here, these Minnesota naive, it's not Minnesota naive, so it's just Minnesota naive. If they're like, I love the idea of government oversight and I love public sector teachers unions and I love getting taxed to death to pay for more administrators in schools, well, the Minnesota voters are going to decide that. But if you live in a sane state and you're like, maybe I don't want to pay for all the administrators in schools. Maybe I don't want to have these enormous class sizes. Maybe I don't want to have violent kids in my classrooms. They will vote differently and they'll have a different outcome in schools. Maybe I want to vote for school choice. Maybe every kid should have a voucher. Maybe if you're a poor black kid in the inner city, you shouldn't be mandated to go to a failing public school where every single day, and I'm a former assistant principal in the inner city, I saw firsthand how it only takes one kid to ruin the entire classroom dynamic. You can give your teacher a black eye and not get suspended because restorative justice. Maybe other black kids don't deserve that. Maybe they should have a choice where they go to school. Now, in a perfect world, there is no Department of Education. There are no property taxes to pay for schools. Every parent would pay out of pocket where I want to send my kid to school, and I will vote with my dollars the best school possible for my circumstances. But since we do have state Department of Education, if we are going to have state education, give parents a say. Don't force these kids to go to failing schools. Don't force any kid to go to school. Homeschool should be an option. Private school should be an option. Parochial school should be an option. Going to work should be an option if you're an old enough kid. The Kamala Harris, we played the clip before when she was running for president still before her disastrous defeat, boasted about sending parents to jail because their kid missed school. Well, truancy is an issue. So what am I going to do? I'm going to arrest parents. Oh, these violent thugs on the streets. Well, they had tough upbringings. They've suffered trauma, so they shouldn't be held accountable for their action. They don't need to go to jail. But you, mom and dad, you need to go to jail because your kid missed a week of school. End truancy laws. If kids want to go to work, if kids want to not go to school, that is fine. Not every kid needs a college education, a high school education. You can go to work at a younger age. There are options. There are options. And honestly, if you're sending your kid to a communist government school right now, what are they learning anyways? By the time they get to high school, they learn to be an activist, not a scholar in the first place. So much to do. But Linda McMahon, back to the point of the video, going to send education back to the states. There's going to be a huge leftist meltdown. Oh no, how are the kids going to learn? Folks, there's still a state level Department of Education. Nothing is going to change except government just got smaller. So these are all good things. All right, we got to clear out the studio here. We got too many videos. Let us continue with the winning, though. I think we talked about all this stuff here. Oh, this is a fantastic clip here, folks. And again, even Morning Joe had to admit like 85%. I think he was making a number. I can believe 85% of Americans, adult Americans, just regular Americans, whatever way you vote, hate what's going on when it comes to transing kids. I think I'm opposed to all of it. I don't want to affirm any of your delusions. If in the privacy of your home you wear a dress and you get off that way, I think you're insane. I'm not going to legislate that. I mean, my buddy Jason did a podcast with Wayne Dupree yesterday. Cenk Uygur was on. Cenk, Young Turks guy. And he's out there saying, like, you and I agree on a lot of stuff, but I just think trans people should have the same constitutional rights as everyone else. And I'm thinking, I'm watching the show, I'm like, what rights don't they have? Like, yeah, you get all the same rights in the United States. It doesn't mean I have to affirm your mental illness. But when it comes to the kids especially, this is where, again, if Morning Joe is correct, 85% of Americans draw the line. It should be 100%. What is wrong with you if you are opposed to not transing kids? But Donald Trump talking tough, and he's saying, I will ban chemical, physical, emotional abuse of these children who are too young to consent, don't know what's happening, as is the case in nearly every time. It is the adults in their life forcing this agenda on them, and it causes irreparable harm, and it creates a lifelong big pharma patient. When it comes to transing kids, this is in part due to just the insanity of communists. They want to disrupt the familial connections. They want to brainwash kids. They want to make them confused. And they also want to get their big pharma buddies rich, because if I castrate you at the age of 12, you need to be on the medicine that only I can provide for the rest of your life. It is a scam when it comes to money. Just follow the money. You can see the agenda there. But worse than that, it harms kids. We should all be defending kids. So take a listen to Donald Trump's plan here as he talks about what he would do to ban all of it.
Gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called.
And they are cruel. Absolutely. Donald Trump's language is so strong here, but so on point. And people are like, oh, but he's saying mean words. He's calling it cruel. Like, emotionally, I can't handle that. Like, no. We want someone to come in, talk tough, say the truth. Sometimes the truth is hard to hear, but this is the exact message the American people need. Fantastic. Let's keep going.
Gender affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go.
So much winning. We need this dose of sanity. It is so tragic that it has come to this point that we need a man like Donald Trump to speak boldly about how evil transing kids is in any form. If it's the chemical castration, if it's going through with the mutilation surgeries, at any level, this is pure evil, what we have allowed kids to endure at the hands of just insane, unwell parents, educators, other adults, physicians that certainly know better. If you're little Johnny and you were born with a penis, you will always be a boy. And then I love to point out the hypocrisy because they're always like, well, your genitalia doesn't define you. You might have a penis, but you could be a girl. And then we just did a story on the University of Minnesota, came out with these gender swapping dolls, for lack of a better word. And it's like, well, you can it's like a Mr. Potato Head, except it's only genitalia, which is disgusting already. We don't groom kids here. You can just play with a doll and have, penises and ovaries and whatever else. And they're like, you can swap off the penis on this boy doll and put it on the girl doll and make it a boy. And it's like, you just told me this entire time that the body parts don't make up who you are. And now I'm playing with the doll that I'm going to put a body part on and that makes it the new thing. It's like, what is it? These guys are completely insane, but it is pure evil. Setting aside the cognitive dissonance that you have to live with if you accept these different premises of transgenderism, just the fact that they're doing this to kids is pure evil. Donald Trump is going to put a stop to that. Every single kid is winning in America under Donald Trump because they will not be subjected to this madness. The only affirmation of a kid's gender is that you have questions because your kindergarten teacher is just a nut job. You are a boy. You will always be a boy. Let's figure out how to make you happy as a boy. That's the affirmation. Yeah, gender affirming care, which means deny your gender, and then we're going to harm your body forever, and you're going to have to live with the consequences. These poor kids, when they grow up to age, and they look back and they're like, wait, my mom had me get this surgery? Like, can you imagine as a kid when you come of age and you're just like reflecting all this? Like, you will hate your parents, as you should. And then we all know that the studies come out too. Sorry, dealing with some sniffles here. All the studies come out and they're like, nobody gets happier after these surgeries anyways. Like, it's all a sham. All it is just money and evil. Money and evil. But so much winning going on here. The kids are winning thanks to Donald Trump's ban on sex change surgeries and chemical castrations. I don't know if my audience is big on crypto. I have some crypto. I've got some Bitcoin. Things are going well right now. But Donald Trump embracing crypto. And as you talk about getting away from fiat money, as you get away from just government control of your money, tracking every purchase, crypto's where it's at. Companies are embracing it. Other countries are embracing it. Donald Trump, our corrupt SEC, we should do a whole story on how the SEC tried to get rid of crypto, make it impossible to hold. The tax laws around it were insane. But Donald Trump getting tough on crypto, saying we're going to do something great. Take a listen.
Your embracing of crypto, very different from the previous administration. Strategic Petroleum Reserve like for crypto?
Yeah, I think so. We're going to do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else, and not just China, but others are embracing it, and we want to be the head. We're going to be ahead of AI. We're going to be way ahead of AI, and we've got to produce tremendous amounts of electricity. You know that it's unbelievable when you think that we need more than twice what we already have. If you think that's pretty for a specific industry, but we'll be able to do it. We have Lee Zeldin in charge of the environment. He's going to be giving us very strong approvals, I think, and he's going to make sure everything's good and clean and proper. But
just got to say, too, because that's Jim Cramer of CNBC. I think people have stock portfolios. Whatever Jim Cramer says to buy, they're like, I'm dumping it immediately. And if he says, unload this stock in your portfolio. I think people swarm in and buy it up. Jim Cramer, often wrong, hilariously wrong. He's memed the point of it now, but interviewing Donald Trump there. And again, everything Donald Trump says is absolutely on point. Embrace crypto. Bitcoin at $100,000 has shown it is not going away, and as every institution, every government, retail investors all flock to it as well. For the same reason that it is a powerful asset class, nailed it here again. Open up the floodgates, let crypto do its thing. Love to see Donald Trump embracing that. Because again, it is not going away. What side do you want to be on? The wrong side or the right side? Donald Trump clearly showing he's on the right side with crypto. All right, and I think we got this one here. I don't see what this video is about. I don't have it all in the headline here, so let's take a listen together.
Transition is going on.
That was our Mexico clip. Well, we passed that moment. We're not going to do the Mexico clip here. But remember, all of this stuff is happening here. Oh, here we go. We got to do this one.
I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price.
Winning right here. There are still hostages in Gaza, American citizens held hostage by Hamas. Joe Biden went after Brittany Griner right away. Hey, we got to make sure that this black lesbian drug offender in Russia gets home right away because, oh, Putin bad and, oh, black lesbian good. We have American hostages held by Hamas for over 1 year now. Joe Biden has done nothing successful to get them home. Are they talking behind the scenes? Maybe, hopefully, but nothing's been accomplished. Donald Trump, though, and this is from his appearance at the RNC this summer, that's why his ear is covered up, saying what has to be said. I'm bringing home Americans held hostage, or there is going to be hell to pay. And yes, Hamas is evil. They deserve every missile coming their way if they don't release these folks. Now, this is not to say I want to have American involvement in the Middle East. I don't care what happens between Israel and Hamas. Let them figure it out. We don't need tax dollars sent over there. We don't need weapons sent over there. But when it comes to our people getting held, then yes, we need to get involved. You don't get to hold Americans hostage for over an entire year, and then, go after Brittany Griner, send her release. Here's the merchant of death. You can have him back, Russia. We just want Brittany Griner back. Patrick Whelan, still over in prison, by the way, there, but Brittany Griner, because she's a celebrity and a black lesbian, got to come home right away. Despicable stuff. You don't hate the Joe Biden administration enough. Every single time you're like, hey, they did that right. Well, how come they didn't do the right thing for all these other people too? So Donald Trump bringing home hostages from Gaza. Again, winning, winning, winning. Everybody is winning under the Trump administration. All right, and then let's go to this because the left freaked out about this. Again, we had an American Debunk comment earlier. Check out the American Debunk. But this was a huge hoax. They were like, Donald Trump told us he's going to be a dictator. He told us he's going to be Hitler. He told us he's going to be a fascist. So here is that clip. And then you tell me if you don't like the ways he'll be dictatorial on day one.
Though, because the media has been focused on this and attacking you. Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look, he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's
drill,
not that's
drill.
That's not that's not retribution.
I'm going to be, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator.
All right, so they're like, oh, he said he's going to be a dictator in day one. Whatever it takes. Obviously, he's speaking facetiously. Obviously, he's not going to suspend the Constitution. He would just be within his right as the executive of the United States to close the border, deport these criminals, and make life better, make energy cheaper, therefore making you all richer, because cheap energy is the number one path to prosperity. Give us access to oil, give us access to natural gas, bring down energy costs, and all those savings translate to more money in your pocket. When I'm not heating my shed at the tune of $100 a month because it's like 50 degrees in here still and minus 12 outside, cheaper for me to heat my studio, cheaper for you all to fill up your car, heat up your own homes, cool your homes in the summertime. When companies don't have to pay so much for energy, think about flying airlines when their gas prices go up. Guess what? That translates to higher ticket prices for you. In every realm, you have to transport goods, produce goods. That costs money. The cheaper the energy to do all that, the cheaper it is for you. So you know what? Speaking facetiously, but whatever it takes to make America great again, There is just so much winning happening, folks, right now. We're up on an hour already. We've been detailing so many successes of Donald Trump, and he hasn't even taken office yet. But so many promises that we are now seeing come to light. You talk about Kash Patel going to the FBI, campaign promise. American people have long wanted to see what's in the Epstein files, who's in there. The Diddy list now. Let's get his names on the Diddy list. You got all these. Ellen DeGeneres fled the country after Donald Trump won. Just happened to be the first celebrity ever to follow through on those empty threats of like, ooh, if Trump wins, I'm leaving the country. They're actually leaving now. What does that tell you about maybe their hidden activities? Release that. Release the 9/11 files. Release the Kennedy assassination files. Release the July 13th files. And Kash Patel has said on interviews with Glenn Beck, is where I heard it, probably others, that he's read a lot of these reports. So people have read them. We have access to this information. Time to let the American people know. Whatever is in there, we deserve to know the truth. All right, with that, folks, though, I got to cut the program a little bit short today. Things happening on the other side of the computer screen. So this is where we're going to stop it today. But just had to celebrate with you all of the Trump victories. As we titled the program, Trump is stacking so many W's. And like I said at the beginning of the show, this benefits every single American. I played the clip on Tuesday with Kristen Welker. Not going to play it again here. But he was asked point blank, what's your message to Americans that didn't vote for you? How are you going to unify the country? And number one, it's not his job to unify the country. They can all come in the America First tent. That's how you unify the country. When you wake these guys up, these NPCs, these normie Democrat voters, when you make them realize that they're supporting evil by voting for Democrat, by voting for rhino senators. We did a whole program on Joni Ernst, too, trying to sell out the American people, putting herself first and the MIC first and Big Pharma first. When people stop voting for corrupt politicians, that's when we'll be unified. When they stop listening to corporate media lies, then we'll be unified. But yeah, sure, it's Donald Trump's job to unify the country. And as he said in the clip, Joe Biden's president. He's been president for 4 years. Maybe it's his job to unify the country and not call us all domestic terrorists if we support the MAGA movement. But we are waking people up. And his response in that clip was, I am representing everybody. Whoever you voted for, my policies are going to make your life better. And absolutely. So when I said Trump is stacking so many W's, yes, it's a victory for the America First movement. He had to win the election. It's a victory for every American. If you're a kid whose insane parents are trying to trans you, you just won a major victory because now your parents can't do that anymore. If you're a hostage in Gaza, you just won because you're coming home. If you're an American citizen jailed in DC prisons because you dared to support Donald Trump in 2020, you're getting out. If you're an American that has to balance a budget, you're winning because energy is getting cheaper, inflation's going down. Tariffs, yes, there might be a short spike, but in the long run, you're going to create new jobs. You're going to have more options on the market. And if you're an American citizen, you're safer in your communities because violent, illegal criminals are getting the hell out of here. So much winning for every single American. This is why we elected Donald Trump. We want all these things to happen. And again, he's not even president yet. These are just some of the initial things he's talking about. Imagine 4 years of this. Life is going to be incredible. But with that, folks, like I said, I got to sign off a little bit early today, take care of some business here. I appreciate you tuning in. American Debunk, I appreciate you watching, appreciate your comment. Folks, everyone needs to go check out the AmericanDebunk.com. You know that they lied to you. You know that they're hoaxes. This website is so powerful, though, because it tells you how the hoax got circulated, how it got created. It gives you the fact check in real time of what Donald Trump said in context or how the media spun it out of proportion. And share this resource with all your friends, family members that still think Orange Man bad, that still believe the media lies. Because if we can wake them up, if you can get a family member to admit, oh, wait, Kamala Harris was lying to me about an officer getting killed on January 6th. Oh, wait a minute. You mean when he was talking about a bloodbath that was with the Mexican economy? A bloodbath, by the way, that we are seeing play out in real time. Had Donald Trump not won, no tariffs on Mexico, which means unlimited flow of people still. But then Mexico continues with its 83% of exports into America to rip this country off. So yeah, there would have been a bloodbath because American manufacturers can't compete with the lower cost of production down in Mexico. So we're all winning. We are all winning. But check out the American Debunk. Arm yourself with the facts. Share the resource with family members and friends because once they have to admit that they lied about one thing, then if they're an honest, self-reflective person, they got to ask themselves, well, what else were they lying about? So great resource, AmericanDebunk.com. And you can find all of our podcast stuff on the American Tribune Live Rumble channel. Check it out, the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. Check out our main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. That's where I upload daily commentary every day to just news kind of going around. Check out our website, theamericantribune.com. We got breaking news stories that come up every single day. We got Facebook pages, we got Twitter pages, X pages now, as it were, X accounts. So many different places to find the American Tribune. But with that being said, folks, again, one more time, let me say thank you for tuning in. You got so many options out there in the podcast space, podcast galore. You chose to listen to me this morning. I appreciate it. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Central. Started a little bit earlier today, but 9:30 a.m. Central, live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Hope to see you next time. Have a great weekend.